I think there's a lot of e-commerce companies that don't actually know what a client is worth and what it costs for them to acquire a new client, and that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Because those are the numbers that you need if you want to like budget growth or forecast how your company will be doing in X amount of time.
Hi everyone, today we're talking with Ilse van Dyck, Chief Marketing Officer at Pit&Pit. So we'll dive deeper in what it means to be a Chief Marketing Officer. So if you're looking to hire a new marketing colleague or you're trying to brush up on your own skills, then this episode is definitely for you. Hi Ilse, welcome to the Dear Digital podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe it's good for the listeners that haven't heard of you yet to give a short introduction.
Okay, so hi, I'm Ilse. Who am I? I'm currently CMO of Pit&Pit, e-commerce company in natural and healthy food. I've worked in digital marketing for 15 years now, and I'm also a consultant advisor.
Nice. How did you end up in digital marketing? How did you end up at Pit&Pit then?
And at Pit&Pit, that would be like a whole 15-year story.
When were you born? No.
I was born actually, funny story. I'm American.
Really? Okay.
By accident. And it's called accidental American also.
So you were on a holiday, your parents were on a holiday or?
My dad was studying there and they didn't necessarily plan to have a kid at the time, I suppose, but I was born on US soil, so I do have the nationality.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, not cool. You still pay taxes in the US or
kind of.
Yeah. I had a friend who still had stimulus checks from the US. Yeah. There you go. Okay, I get it. So you were born in the US, but then you migrated back to Belgium. Or okay, cool.
Yeah.
You went to, I suppose, high school somewhere in the vicinity of.
Yeah, I lived all my life around Leuven.
Yeah.
So I don't live there anymore, but I still feel Leuvenaar.
Yeah.
Went to high school there, went to university there.
Yeah. What did you do at university, or what did you study at university?
Communication sciences.
Okay.
I was the kind that didn't know what she wanted to do with the rest of her life. Yeah. Still don't know. And communication sciences felt like place to go in that
That's
case.
why you ended up in marketing.
It's where I had marketing courses at university, which I honestly despised.
Yeah. Okay. You despised marketing at university.
Very much so. But 15 years ago, the course itself was also super basic, and or I found it super basic. There were people in my class who knew at that time I want to go into marketing, and I was quite vocal about the fact that I thought it was all fluff.
Yeah.
So very surprised to have ended up here.
So 20 years later, ended up in marketing. We'll go a bit deeper in that, but you still remember, or do you still use some things that you've learned in those courses?
No. Oh, not the marketing courses, the statistics courses, however. Yeah.
Because you said it was all fluff. How we look at it right now, it's more of a data thing.
That's exactly the reason that I ended up in marketing in the end. Because I took a job that I didn't realize was marketing.
Yeah.
By the time I figure out, wait, I'm actually doing marketing, but in a different, measurable, digital way.
Yeah.
I was okay to accept my fate.
Okay, cool.
It was fine.
So you finished the communication studies. You took a job at what type of company was it?
My very, very first job was working for a recruitment company, but my first real long-term job was they were selling cosmetics and they had launched their website and they were looking for, at the time, a copywriter, someone to write product descriptions. I was like, I like cosmetics, I like writing, fine.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Makes complete sense. Didn't realize it was marketing. Didn't realize it was e-commerce, right? So I started there, 50 products. So after a month, my job was done and I started playing around with the website, discovering Google Analytics. And before you know it, you're actually doing e-commerce and online marketing. So that's how I started in the field.
What's the company called?
Oh, it went bankrupt.
Oh, okay.
Not due
because
to
of you?
not due to me. Well, it exists in some form. It's called Corimer, so I think the brand still exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was able to play a lot as the only marketeer to try and figure out how stuff works, look under the hood.
Yeah, everybody else were product teams or.
It was a very old school company. They had a lot of salespeople on the baan, as we say in Dutch, who went to people's like home parties, and they sold cosmetics to home parties. And so I was the only digital native at that point,
Really?
the only real marketeer. The only thing they did was like paper flyers to try and get their home parties booked. So I was a bit of a vreemde eend in the bed, like the weird kid within the organization, so to speak. But it was lots of fun. Yeah.
And what did you end up learning a lot during that experience?
Yeah, definitely. It was because no one knew anything. It was up to me to figure everything out, right? From putting products online to actually following up on sales to SEO to all of the contacts with the web developer at that point. So
did they know, or did you create your own job? Did they know they had to be more inclined on?
They didn't realize, especially at the time. I mean, even now, a job description in e-commerce is still pretty vague, right? And depends a bit per company. Let alone 15 years ago, they didn't know. They didn't know what they needed, right? I didn't even know at that time because it was the very first time I was in such a job. And the CEO, lovely guy, but I remember he actually at some point he took like a measuring tape, put it next to his desktop monitor, and he told me, he was serious as well. He told me, right now our website measures 25 centimeter. It's 25 centimeters wide. I would like it to be 30.
No,
I am not kidding. So that's kind of the vibe at the time.
What time? What was it? 2009 or
2009 something? Yeah.
Back in the days, everything was changing. How did you manage to get traffic on the website? The first sales on the website. Just out of interest, because 2009 is completely different than we do it now, I suppose. Or
well, actually, not that much. Not that different, actually, which is the crazy thing. It was a lot of search. So even at that time, SEO, so the product descriptions, they were right about the fact that was important. There was even the concept of blogging and creating extra content at the time. There was already keyword research, all that kind of stuff. And the whole SEO, SEA proportions were still a bit different because the market was way less mature. So there was a bit more room to really easily scale SEO-wise. So quite a big focus on search, to be honest, at that time. Yeah.
So you focused on optimizing the pages, then getting the people who are looking for these types of products.
Yeah.
But were you already writing the long tail keywords, blog posts, and all these things?
Yeah. There was definitely
It was already a thing.
The long tail blogging was definitely a thing at the time. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think I was at university back then, so I wasn't really involved in everything, websites and things. What did you do afterwards?
The company went bankrupt, unfortunately. After I think when I was there I'm really bad in years, so I'll say when I was there for a year and a half, 2 years. But I realized by then I really liked the job of being a digital marketeer in an e-commerce environment. So I kind of looked for the same job at another company. So again, a quite small retailer, had some physical stores in clothing. He wanted to launch a web shop, or he had just launched a web shop. And I went and became, again, the only marketeer within the
organization.
Company. Yeah.
How did that go?
Quite the same in the sense that, you're part of a bigger retail company, but you're the only one actually focused on online at that time. So you're very much a bit left to your own devices. But no hard feelings again. No. Lovely people, but you're the only one of this strange new kind at that time. So a lot of trying to figure stuff out on your own, a lot of Googling.
How did you, because you didn't learn it during the communication studies, so how did you actually learn it? It's all on the job?
Doing,
Searching.
Doing, searching, Googling. At the time, I would highly advise everyone to talk to other marketeers to learn stuff. But at the time, I mean, you just start out, I'm super timid, you know, so that wasn't part of my social skill set. But just playing around and trying. I still believe even today that's the best way to learn, is just to sit behind the buttons and then pull some
Still play
levers.
around. Yeah, okay.
Play around. Yeah, best way to learn.
Were you then back then also writing the content for the SEO optimizations? And
At that time, yeah. Because the catalog wasn't that huge.
Yeah.
It was like a single or two brand retailer, so we weren't talking about thousands of articles either.
Yeah, was it already clear that you were like doing the role of a marketing manager in a sense? Is that you have so many levers to pull that you kind of need to manage all of them at the same time? Not all of them at 100%, but most of them at a pretty good level.
I wouldn't have called it a manager.
Yeah.
And I still struggle with that term because, well, looking back, after having actually managed teams of people, I think it's a whole different skill set, managing people versus managing budgets and tools and strategies. So, yeah, I don't think at the time neither I would have mentioned I was a marketing manager.
Were you, during that time, were there any specific skills that you learned during those first days, first years, that you still hold on to today? Is that everything SEO related or?
Oh, greatly. Attention to detail.
Yeah.
It's not a marketing specific skill, but it's so important.
Yeah.
It's something I've had to work on, but I realized quite quickly is important.
Super important.
Super important, yeah.
In what way? Detail everywhere and on the website, within the copywriting?
I kind of want to say everywhere, but it goes from like, if you don't pay attention, you send out an email to thousands of people with the wrong landing page behind the button, and that's not okay. It's okay if you yourself maybe don't have attention to detail, but then just have the reflex to have someone check your stuff maybe. So like these kind of reflexes, like whatever you do, it actually can have impact.
Yeah.
That's really a big one. And experimentation. I know it's not a very specific skill, but
just having the mindset.
Having the mindset to set stuff up in a way that you can follow through, measure, and see what actually works and what doesn't.
Was that clear back then already? Because for now, we still often see and feel that people, let's call them older business owners, still have the feeling like just set it up and it will run by itself. And there's much less of the mindset of set it up once and iterate and iterate and iterate.
For me, it was quite clear from the beginning, but I started, of course, in smaller businesses where every cent counts. So if there was a way to test something that could decrease CPCs with 10%, it was worth the effort.
Yeah, cool.
So if you're biting on every euro, then that's definitely a mindset to have. Yeah,
it's all around testing and optimizing and these things.
Yeah.
Very cool. What did you afterwards like? You had a similar experience. You left the company.
I was in the clothing company for I think about a year.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing like, okay, I've been in this field for 3 years. I really like e-commerce marketing. I've been playing around and learning on my own, but I felt like I hit a bit of a threshold. Like this is where I can get on my own, so to speak. So I really wanted to look for a place where I could learn from other people as well. And that's kind of like the first, maybe the only time I did something explicitly thought out in my career, because the rest was just faith or whatever. And I really went looking for a position where I knew people with knowledge were already there. And that's how I ended up with New Pharma. Because I knew one of the founders had quite a track record in digital marketing. He had already sold by then. He had launched a search agency that he had sold. So it wasn't his first venture. They don't mind if I call them dinosaurs in the industry. So I knew I would like to work for them. And it turned out I was right, because I was there for 8 years. So,
cool. So tell me about New Pharma.
It's
and the whole 8 years in a nutshell.
The whole 8 years. A crazy ride, I would say. Yeah. Those were
they already long in with the startup just when you joined, or?
I don't remember how old or young they were when I joined, but I think I was one of the first 10 hires for sure. There were a lot of days when we had to help make the parcels at the end of the day. So they
Cool.
They had orders coming in, like they definitely had traction. They
Yeah.
knew the business was going to work, but the volumes weren't there yet necessarily. And I really saw it grow over those 8 years to, a multi-million business,
Cool.
where at the end Colruyt bought shares and
Yeah.
the whole story there. So it was, looking back, it really was a super interesting growth story to have been a part of. Yeah.
What's if you were to point to one key factor within that success, what would you point? Like, was it, could even be it's great management, could be SEO, like we talked before.
I think there's two in the case of Nufarma that I highly believe in. They were first movers.
Okay.
They were really fast. Like they sensed a change coming in legislation, and they knew like this is going to become possible.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're there. I think, just knowing when to move on something is important. And secondly, the founding team was extremely strong in terms of skill sets and interpersonal relationships.
Cool. Yeah. They knew they had to build a team to build a bigger company, that the people skills were important, because you will often see founders that are really good at SEO or at their product, for example, but have a weaker skill within people and managing people and so on.
Yeah, no, they knew what they were building. They knew the skills that they needed to build it. They had a lot of skills themselves as well, in the sense that also made them very credible, and it made them also attract people. Like it attracted me, the fact that I knew that I could learn from them. Yeah. And they were also very complementary. So one of them had a really thorough marketing background. The other was an engineer. So the logistics side was very strong there. Yeah. And those are the two factors that I think make an e-commerce business successful or not. So,
Is it, out of interest, of course, the whole podcast is out of interest here, but did they start out with like 10,000 of SKUs, or did they start out with a few and then scale it up? Did you need to optimize 10,000 product pages?
Not 10,000 to start with necessarily, but the volume was there quite quickly, because the idea had always been to be an online alternative for a physical pharmacy. And in a physical pharmacy, you have access to a whole catalog of thousands of products. So it's huge. So by default, it was huge from the start. But it definitely came with challenges on the SEO side, and not the easiest business to optimize for SEO. No, definitely. Yeah.
And so let's talk strategy. You enter such a business. You already had a few years of experience, but this is it's a new game, or let's say on a new level. What's the first thing you do? You enter a company. You look at their performances. You do an audit. Let's say, what are the things or the steps you take?
Do you ask a question for Nufarma now or for other companies? Because Nufarma was I came in as a few years of experience, but 3 years of experience
wasn't enough.
I'm very sorry, but that's very little, right? I mean, it's no disrespect, but it's something that you have as luggage, but it's very little. And I came in as a marketing hire for someone who had by then 10, 20 years of experience. So I did not come in with the idea, let me write you a 360-degree marketing plan. Okay. That was definitely not the way that I came in. I came in as, I want to learn from you. What are the priorities here? And then organically, you start becoming part of the strategy as well. But that was not the scope to start with. No.
Okay. So what were the first things that you did then back
everything.
Then? Okay.
As a first marketing hire, you do everything.
Everything.
Yeah. You write emails, you send out your emails, you work on SEO, you spend days up to your elbows in SEA, because at the time, your single keyword ad groups, I mean, you went into super detail because that was the way to win, right? So you spend days building out your campaigns and your ad groups and bidding manually at that point and changing a bit and then going back 3 days later to see how it affects. So everything.
Were you like the manager of the store also? So it was your job to...
There was no physical store. Well, there was a pharmacy, because legally you need a pharmacy, but it wasn't really marketed as come by our pharmacy. It was more of a, we need this legally, but...
Do they still need a pharmacy as of today?
I think so, yeah.
Crazy, I didn't know that. So they have a few pharmacies then now.
I think they have they don't have a chain. It's not like
Yeah,
MediaMarkt
just
who has an
one,
omni-channel.
Yeah.
Of course, with Colruyt in the game,
Maybe
you can
it's
imagine
different.
there's another long-term
plan there.
plan somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were never, well, originally they were never an omni-channel player. They were a pure player, and there was an administrative pharmacy, so to speak, to make sure that they could
legal
be
compliance.
Online. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Indeed, my previous question. Maybe we can already get into what you're doing at Pit&Pit right now, because that's the step you took after New Pharma, right? Or you had another.
I had a few years in between when I left New Pharma, where I did pure consultancy work.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And what type of companies did you consult there? All e-com?
No, not all e-com, because after New Pharma, I felt the need, like, okay, I was in e-com for 10 years.
Yeah.
Let me see what else is out there. Like, are my skills transposable? Like, can I do B2B? How does demand gen compare? That kind of stuff. So I really wanted to discover some other aspects and other company types as well. So I played around with it. As a consultant, you can play and you can choose your projects. And
Okay, cool. Yeah, how's the very big question? What's the difference between a demand gen strategy and an e-com strategy?
Well, at the same time, there's loads of differences, and at the other time, well, at
the
other end,
basics are
the
about creating a lot of touch points in demand gen, I think.
Yeah, but at the end, you set up campaigns, you measure. It's like it's a lead form filled is a conversion, right? So the mechanics are the same.
Yeah.
Was
it like, because due to that the experience, did you feel like you were much more mature in doing what you're doing right now, for example, or would you have said no? It was okay to have the B2B experience, but it's having the experience in the B2C itself is much more important.
It depends what you're working on.
Yeah.
If you ask me to work on like a sales marketing alignment and ICP profiles and that kind of stuff, I'd probably say I don't have that baggage because I communicate B2C mainly.
Yeah.
If you ask me like, hey, I'm building a marketing team, I need a certain specific skill set to drive online campaigns, I can definitely help out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah, interesting. So after a few years or a few months or
few years,
yeah. And you saw an opportunity to join Pit&Pit as their current CMO.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was it due to an acquaintance or a job page online?
Actually, very traditional, a job that was sent my way. And I wasn't necessarily looking either because I still consult a bit, so I was super happy with what I was doing. Yeah. But the thought of like going back to e-commerce, that sounds, I never really left because I did have other projects, but it just felt like a super great fit.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, in terms of values and the products.
You had heard of the website before?
I was a client.
Oh, okay.
I'm a vegetarian.
Nice.
I mean, it was just, it kind of ticked all of the boxes. Yeah.
So how long ago did you join? Was it?
I started working for Pit&Pit in November last year. So it's 4 months ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so how has it been like let's come back to the other question I had for New Pharma. What do you do when you join such a company? As the CMO then?
In that case, but you come in and you try and start looking around by what's there, first of all. Rather than starting to pin out what's not there, you try and collect all of the insights that are there. And that means talking to people, asking access to all of the reports and all of the data, and kind of trying to glue that together just to get a feel of, okay, how does this work, right? How does the motor work? What kind of engine is it? Are we talking diesel or gas, right? Just to get a first image of what the company actually works like on the inside. And that was the case with Pit&Pit, but it's the case with all of my projects. And based on that, you can kind of start to pinpoint, okay, here's some gaps or
what's running behind? where do you have more impact and can do more?
Exactly. And after a while, you can compare because you've got some benchmarks and like, okay, conversion rate is absolutely fine here. No worries. But when you look at that side, there might be something to dive into a little bit. So
you'll dive within the channels, you'll dive within the e-commerce platform, see the conversion rate, see the analytics. What type of metrics will you look at?
Oh, all of them. Whatever you have.
Any favorites?
I'll take any.
Yeah.
It depends. The key ones, like in my head, there's two types of metrics. Like you've got your typical traffic conversion rate, average order value, and then you combine those and you kind of have your basic sum of whatever performance your website will give you. But then the more difficult one to have and the one that actually helps you drive your business forward is the database on your customers. Like how many new customers do you have? How many returning customers do you have? What's their lifetime value? And what does it cost to get a customer? And that's much more difficult because analytics won't give it to you out of the box. They say they do, but they don't, right? So it's trying to get access to both of those correctly and then somehow trying to put them together. Like when you reach the point where you get that interesting customer data, you can tie it back to, and what product do they actually buy and how did they find out about the product? That's when you get a real answer to any growth question.
Like for example, lifetime value is an interesting one because you can take up a lot of things within that metric. What type of things will you look at to calculate the lifetime value? And maybe related to that, the customer acquisition cost and everything, because that's once you determine the lifetime value in my head, let's say, we can take a look at how much we can pay for to acquire a new customer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the basic rule of the game. As long as you don't pay more to acquire a customer than the customer brings back into the business, your business in theory is fine, right? And then if you're sure to look at your margins, etc., and you make sure that part of the calculation is correct. I like to do that together with either a CFO or a CEO, just to make sure that the way you look at those numbers is completely validated and you don't forget about, I forgot about the cost of logistics, for example.
But it happens a lot, the VAT and so on.
I think there's a lot of e-commerce companies that don't actually know what a client is worth and what it costs for them to acquire a new client. And that's absolutely crucial because those are the numbers that you need if you want to budget growth or forecast how your company will be doing in X amount of time.
Any other metrics? You said returning customers, super interesting. I suppose that's a bit of the bread and butter of a company also, just like Pit&Pit. You want to get as many, everybody wants as many returning customers as possible, of course. But as you're in food and in consumables, I think that needs to be optimized. Compared to the average order value, you don't need to give me exact numbers, but just compared to the average order value, does the lifetime value, is it, 10 times the average order value in a company such as a food company? So let's say it's 20 euros, so it's 200 euros in LTV, or...
Oh, no, not necessarily, because you talk about VAT, you talk about your margin, you talk about your logistical costs. Yeah. So your AOV very quickly becomes much lower, so to speak. And I also have to confess that Pit&Pit is a bit of a special food company. I don't want to say, it's not that we're not necessary, but we're kind of like a very explicit choice that a customer makes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think customers that come to Pit&Pit, they don't just come because it's more easy, or they don't come for the convenience, they don't come for the price, although we offer convenience and a good price. Yeah. But it's a real love brand, which is quite a rare thing online.
It's hard to build.
It's very hard to build. Yeah. And I think at Pit&Pit, it's there. It grew organically into a love brand without actually trying to make it that. So it's also definitely something that's very special to protect because it's hard to build, but I also think it's very fragile and it's very easy to break as well.
Yeah, if you end up discounting very hard and sending out spammy emails because you want to increase revenue and so on.
Exactly. Yeah.
I kind of have this two extremes in my head. Like you have the marketeer that's like the data nerd. Then you have like the marketeer who's the brand nerd.
Oh yes, I know where you're going.
Where are you? No.
I like to think I've moved onto the middle. Like I used to be a true performance marketeer.
Okay.
Like I would talk only ROI to you, and anyone that would talk about brand awareness, I would laugh in your face. Because I was young and bold. But I definitely moved on to a more compromised version where I realized that the value of a brand is definitely there. It's hard to measure, but it matters so much. I've worked for businesses now that have a real clear brand proposition and brand value, and businesses that don't. And I sense the difference whenever you set up a campaign.
Yeah, crazy.
It's huge.
You can actually you sense it when you set up the campaign. It's hard to tell in the numbers, or would you say the LTV is higher simply because there's a stronger loyalty bond? And
you sense it in LTV, you sense it just in return rates, you sense it in the way that people, before they come back, they start comparing before they make a decision to come back. And you just feel when your customer cares about the brand or doesn't.
It's true. It's truly interesting because it's we often work with startups and scale-ups, and we'll tell them like it's important to have a brand and have the fundamentals right, and you don't need to pay 10,000 euros for it, but you just need to understand what your customer is looking for and try and be that type of brand that they're looking for. But it's hard. It's hard to convey the message because it's hard to put it in numbers exactly.
You can't make a business case. You cannot promise someone, okay, if you invest this much time and money into developing a brand, it will make you this much money in return. That's an impossible business case to make. And that's when it comes to a founder actually believing in it or not. Or having, well, I don't want to say short-term versus long-term because that may be too pejorative or too pessimistic. But it's for me very much that difference as well. Do you play the long game versus the
interesting.
short one?
Yeah, but what I've seen or noticed is that indeed the people who are a bit longer in the business actually understand that it's an important thing. But have you ever encountered a rebranding where it actually worked really well, where they invested, let's say 50,000 euros, and you could actually see like, wow, okay, this actually worked. Although it's hard to tell, I completely agree with that. Have you experienced?
That's actually a really good question. I haven't. But I'm not sure because I was just saying you need to invest X amount of time and money into a brand. But I think it can start smaller. Like I think it can just start with like listening to your customers and not just pushing product, but pushing value. For me, it starts there. And then whatever color you put onto it or whatever font, I mean, it helps convey. But for me, it's all about the added value rather than just, here's a product, please buy it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
That's for me part of the whole, I'm a brand and I stand for something as well.
Yeah. Where did you like learn where did you go from one end to the other end a bit more in the middle? Is it during New Pharma or?
It definitely started happening while I worked at New Pharma because I came from I started there first, digital marketeer, then I became performance team lead, so very performance focused. Then I started taking over as a CMO and I had email marketing, awareness, social media, everything that kind of came onto my plate. And that's when you realize, okay, performance marketing, super crucial for growth, super necessary. But there's also limits to it, right? You cannot keep pouring buckets of money into a machine that you don't fuel from another source as well. It needs extra oil to drive this engine, so to speak. So that's where it started to shift, definitely. Yeah,
it's interesting that you say the oil in the engine there. We're also a performance marketing agency. We'll often tell our clients, or let's say definitely the startups, like, you have a great product, and we can definitely help you push it online due to performance marketing. But you'll need some kind of organic traffic first before we can actually help you out on a profitable way for performance marketing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, being profitable in performance marketing is really hard. Huh?
Yeah.
It's no longer, I mean, it was hard 10 years ago already.
Yeah.
I mean, with increased CPCs and extra players on the market, it's become even harder by now. So the notion that your performance marketing should pay itself back is already quite a big ask, let alone that next to it, you can also invest in any awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Growth costs money.
What's the let's take a skincare brand, for example. Mm-hmm. They've invented a new type of product. What's the first thing you'd say to them? Like, what should they do? Should they start their store? Should they start with brand awareness? Should they do PR?
I'm gonna answer in the most marketing
nice
annoying way ever.
It depends.
Yeah, it's extremely annoying. It's the reason that CEOs sometimes don't trust CMOs. I'm sure, because we often say it depends, but it really depends. There's no one way.
No.
Founder A with product A, for them it could make complete sense to open a physical store because of, I don't know,
certain type of product, because they want to see
location,
it, smell it.
Client, whatever. For product B, founder B, it could be go D2C, don't even think about going offline.
Yeah, you don't want to see real customers go behind your desk.
Yeah.
Go full D2C.
Yeah, so it depends.
You've seen some things change over the years, I suppose. 2021 for us was a pivotal moment as Apple changed a few things, but we always compare to like back in the days. We often say back in the days, and then we talk around 2010 or so. You could set up Facebook ads, Google ads, and actually still do it profitably.
Yeah,
because there was less competition. If you weren't in a crowded space, of course. What are like the biggest shifts that you've seen and things that you learned from?
There's quite many. At the same time, I think they're not enough. If you look back 15 years, everything is basically still the same, right?
Yeah, it's still Facebook, Google.
Yeah, and you go to a browser and you add a product to your basket and you fill out a funnel form and you pay for. I mean, there's not that much that's different, and everyone comes from search or social. So in the big scope, there's not that much that's different. What has changed? Yeah, there's the whole tracking and then privacy subjects. And I definitely think in 5 years or 10 years, we'll look back and we'll be, I can't imagine we were allowed to do this. It's crazy. So I think, that's a big natural change. And for marketeers, and especially performance marketeers, it's hard because you're giving up a lot of control. You're giving up a lot of really nice reports where you can tie back results to what you did, and you've got ROI machines, etc. So it's going to be a whole different way of working. But I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing.
No, me neither.
Because I think it will
tie. It's not cool for us as an agency, also, but
it's gonna be super hard, but. It
makes it much more interesting.
And I think it will bring both sides of marketing, as you mentioned before, the very performance-based one and the more creative one. I think it could actually bring those sides closer together because they're often in silos. So, definitely a challenge, but
something that I just want to ask, because it's like that in my head, is when I talk around CRO with people, is I'll often tell them, like, you have your website, and if you were to optimize for CRO, let's say, CRO in best practices sense, then your website wouldn't be a love brand anymore. Your website would like have every little detail and every little exclaimer with the, let's say, a green text and a red text to have a warning, but a green text to push that button and all these types of things. But then you would damage kind of the brand. So you need to find a way between, or like the compromise between those two. Would you agree, or do you see it?
I kind of agree, yeah. And there's definitely that trend. Like 10 years ago, everyone wanted to be Amazon, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to know how to optimize your website, you went and you looked how Amazon did it, and you built your own ugly version of it. Because I have to admit, it's not pretty.
No. Not.
So I kind of agree. But on the other hand, yeah, I think it might link into what I firmly believe is that not every customer should be your customer either. So like if your website is built around your ideal customer, and if that means that someone is not your ideal customer, doesn't convert, is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, I think, personally. So yeah.
Would you, for me, the conversion rate is all around those short-term conversions. You want to optimize for those like short-term conversions. You tie it in, for example, like it might not be clear for now, but they're not looking for this type of content right now, so they're not looking to buy. So you don't need 50 CTAs on your blog posts, but you just need to have, for example, their email address, and then afterwards you can always optimize through email marketing. Is it something that you often tie in together, like conversion rates and just the long game? Because we optimize, I can say that we optimize for the short term because we want to help our clients on the short term, and it's very hard for us to actually think with them on the long run. We do that as much as possible, but we're accountable on the numbers, and the numbers are the only thing speaking, let's say.
So am I. I mean, my objectives are represented in numbers as well, so it makes complete sense to go for the sale you want to get.
That one,
But the challenge there is, especially for a brand like Pit&Pit, and I think in that sense it's a luxury to work for that brand. If you go too conversion driven, and if you go too here's a timer on my homepage counting down the seconds that you have to
we only still have
enjoy the discount.
2 nuts left, please buy.
That, in our case, that would not fit with the brand at all, and we would have customers rightfully complaining about the fact that they feel assaulted. So again, it depends, right? There are brands where you can do that 100% because it's what is expected. You have your daily deals. Nothing against that, but that's just a whole different...
It's a different game, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different game.
But maybe I'm slowly getting to it in my head because it wasn't 100% clear where my question came from. Maybe LTV and returning customers are the only thing where brand is actually being measured, because it will show you a type of loyalty. While if you were to discredit the brand by doing some things that are against the ICP or the character of the ICP, you will probably start chipping away at the LTV because you've just convinced them for a sale, but you haven't gained their loyalty for the next sale, for example.
Brand is crucial there. Huh? Brand and actual experience with the product.
And customer experience also. Yeah,
because in e-commerce, I often feel like as a marketeer, you're behind the screen and you kind of work until the conversion, but then you kind of forget that the customer's experience actually happens after what you've worked on.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like maybe, was it 5% or so? Is it maybe even less? 1% is the website and everything else is the
So there's this whole part of the customer journey that we don't even think about, and we're just working on this product page, which is a bit funny.
Yeah, true.
So brand definitely plays a role there, but I think it's also very strong on acquisition. It can definitely make or break a good acquisition strategy as well.
How are what are like the main platforms of acquiring a customer for a brand like Pit&Pit?
I think it's the same as for almost every e-commerce company. It's search and some social. Very important, or what's a really big source for Pit&Pit, and again, it ties into the love brand notion, is the amount of referrals and people who talk about the brand around them. So that's really...
You have any system in place for referral?
Not yet, but working on it.
Nice,
we know it's organically already strong, so we set something in place, not just to make it grow even more, but also because it sounds a bit fluffy, but we kind of also want to thank the people who actually do, because we didn't do so in the past. So
cool. So you won't be looking at or just a simple referral app installation. It will be a bit more organic, you'll see if there's a better way, because I often see that referral systems are implemented on websites where you kind of know like nobody's using it. You don't have the power as a brand enough to ask for such a thing.
100%. Yeah. We're just adding it on because it makes sense. So it is an app, but it ties in with the whole brand story and the customer's already existing behavior.
Yeah.
I think what you mentioned is like trying to create a new behavior that isn't organically there with just an app.
Crazy.
And that probably won't work.
Yeah.
It's like fitting a square peg through a round hole.
You have a loyalty system in place?
And that's tied together with what I just mentioned. So I don't know when this is going to come out, but maybe then it will be live already. But because we have so many loyal customers again that we didn't necessarily thank for their loyalty in the past. So we really wanted to work on something too.
Yeah. So you know how often they've bought, and you want to make them similar to VIPs or something, like you are part of the Pit&Pit family now because you've bought 10,000s of
something
nuts.
along those lines. But like, for example, something we did at the end of last year was just we randomly chose, I don't remember how many of our best clients, and we just send them a gift box at the end of the year just to thank them, like a random act of
You don't have like KPIs on that, like they need to repost it and we need to have direct conversions from that post?
For this specific action, to be very honest, no.
More of a delight, or is it surprise and delight?
Surprise and delight,
exactly,
or something along those lines. No.
Cool. Where is Pit&Pit? Where are you active today? In which countries?
Flanders and Holland are the main markets. We recently opened up the French website, so that's beginning of the year, to target Wallonia and France.
Yeah.
So 2 new markets at once. Yeah. So that's definitely quite a.
So
challenge.
It's starting from zero there, or you already had some traffic.
We already had an international website in English, so we kind of had an idea of where people were already coming from for our products.
Actually, French people came onto your website, bought from the English website.
Yeah, that means they're very motivated.
Yeah, that means they're really motivated.
So we knew we had a small customer base there already, and that kind of
more
helps.
Than in Germany, then, for example, or just.
Germany's coming up as well. So we're ambitious. So,
cool.
But that served as a really nice way to catch interest and then to try and see what markets could make sense.
Have you done any type of market research, or just mostly based on the research that you had and the data that you had?
Mostly the signal from the market, like seeing the customers come in, and then of course you take a look and see what's already there, and then you try to make sure that it fits. Marketplaces are also a really nice way to potentially check if there's any traction in the market. Mm-hmm. Like, does that go naturally? Can I make a sale quite easily? Or not.
So you've done so for France, for example, or not
for
yet?
Germany.
For Germany,
yeah.
Amazon, Germany, which is like what I've heard, of course, is it's like the channel to try on
but
first.
It makes complete sense, because I mean, translating a website, localizing a website, it's not that easy. I've worked on quite a lot of projects that were like, hey, let's open up a new market. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
So it serves as a really good way to see, first of all, if your product can gain some interest. And what we noticed already, and which was a really positive sign, is that we actually already saw some of those clients coming back to our international website in that case. So even without a full program working on getting those clients back to our own platform, they already did.
Cool.
So,
what type of timeline do you have for example, entering the French market? Do you see the ROI then? Do you see it on the 2-year timeline, 1 year, as soon as possible?
Wait, what do you mean in terms of timeline?
You'll invest in the setup of a new website, you'll invest in the translations, in the localizations, eventually in a few logistic changes, for example. On what type of timeline do you see the return coming back?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it depends on the case, and now we're talking about Pit&Pit, where internationalization is one of multiple parts of a growth strategy.
Yeah.
So the market as such doesn't need to be necessarily ROI positive or whatever. It's just part of a growth strategy.
Yeah.
And the beginning, in any case, is a lot of testing, learning, as you do with anything that you put out there, any go-to-market. We don't have a fixed rollout. We have kind of like, okay, let's see if this works.
Yeah.
Scale back, scale up, kill it, try something else. So we're very much in that stage,
Cool.
I think, as you are for any...
You start with all the SKUs, all the products in France, for example?
In this case, no. In this case, I think we did.
Yeah.
In this case, I think we did, because we're quite sure of the market. So
and there are no limitations on products, food regulations, or...
No, that's fine. Yeah, that was quite different for the pharmacy.
I can
pharmacy
imagine,
industry.
Where are they active? New Pharma.
They were also internationally active. And they went quite quickly, because I think they launched the website, and I think after 2 weeks they had a first sale from Holland coming in, and they didn't start with an international approach.
Mindset,
not at all. So they weren't prepared for this at all. But very quickly, organically, they went cross-border without even realizing.
Yeah, that's cool.
They went to France, Holland, I think, Germany, Switzerland.
A lot of... it must be hard indeed in the pharma world.
Pharma is, but... Yeah. Any industry has got its challenges. Clothing is not cool either.
No.
I mean, everything related to sizing, returns. It's a very hard industry as well. Food has specific challenges as well. You have your expiry dates. You have your Federale Agentschap van de Voedselveiligheid. There's the biolabels. So any industry.
Do you have like your own warehouse at Pit&Pit then?
Yeah, own logistics. Yeah.
It's probably necessary at the scale then.
I believe that for an e-commerce company to scale and grow from a certain point onwards, you need good logistics. Any e-commerce company I saw that was really successful and profitable had own logistics. Yeah,
and so they had the full customer experience under control.
Especially that. Yeah, like for example, if at the end of the year we want to decide we want to send 50 boxes to our best customers, we just go into the stock and we make the boxes and it's done.
It's done.
If you work with a third-party provider, it becomes a hassle to do that kind of spur-of-the-moment actions. So
you mentioned growth strategies and the type of growth strategies. There are, let's say, a few like actually growing the company. Let's do times 2, 3, 4. Geographic expansion is one. Product expansion, product category expansion. What else can you think of? And have you seen some work really well? For example, geographic, I suppose so. But adding a new category to your company, like we do nuts and seeds, and we added other things.
Yeah, that can definitely work. We recently at Pit&Pit, we added a care category, for example. Okay. So we moved a bit from being pure food to also adding cosmetics, following the same vision, of course, like no added ingredients, only natural. And that's a really good match for existing customer, because they have the same value-based buying for that category. So that's definitely a good strategy. Yeah.
So it's more based on values, less based on, maybe it's a bit of the same, but problem. Like I want good nuts and I want good food. It's more based on the values that you'll expand your category and less on expanding on the problem or...
But you could probably take both routes. I think for any company, you could either look at your current customer and try and see how you could serve other problems that customer has or fill other needs for them. Or you could look at acquiring more customers and adding a different category that way. So you could approach it from different angles, I think. But
how did it go? The expansion, product... adding or
the new category. You mean concretely or?
More in retrospect, it has been added. How's it going today?
Really, really well. I think one of the signs of something working is does it kind of start working itself? That's a good sign. Versus do you need to put effort and budget into advertising for it? It's not bad that you have to do that. It's normal that you have to put something in the etalage in the shop window. That makes complete sense. But if you do something and without actually we weren't ready marketing-wise to market it, but it started selling on its own. And then we were like, okay, in that case, it means it works, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the best proof there is.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe a step-by-step approach. They looked for a few suppliers that matched the brand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have a really at Pit&Pit, it's definitely the case, but at other e-commerce companies as well. Like I think the purchasing and the product experts are crucial. Yeah. So what they did here is they really looked for partners that aligned on all of those values that we want to offer in our product range, just to make sure that the all natural and that kind of stuff. Like our claim or our idea is that with our food, you don't need to read the label. Like you can be sure that it's healthy, there's nothing added, it's clean, right? And we wanted to have exactly the same approach for cosmetic products, which means that our product expert has to vet all of the products to make sure that's actually the case, right? So that took quite a bit of work, but it also meant that we could trust the products that we added, and turns out like he made a good choice. Yeah.
Is it already taking a part of a substantial part of the revenue, or is it just very slim for today?
Oh, it depends what you. Yeah.
Is it like 5% or?
No, not 5% yet. But right now it's a very small selection.
Yeah,
but for the size of the selection,
it's already
really
pretty good.
Really good traction.
Yeah, nice. Any other things you'll be adding soon?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
To be seen.
To be seen. Yeah.
All based on the on the values. If it matches the values.
Yeah, there's big discussions at the office. Like, do we do chocolate or not, for example? Because it's sugar.
One, right?
Yeah, it's.
But the chocolate more. I know the supply chain is also very hard to like actually know if something is actually sourced in the good way. Because who is it? I think it's Tony Chocoloni who says that they're like doing it a very good way, but a lot of people, I think it's mostly Oxfam, saying like, no.
Not good enough.
What you're doing is not good enough, not at all.
Yeah, the sourcing definitely comes with challenges. Sometimes we have really good selling products that we just cannot find anymore, either because we're very strict on the sourcing or something in the supply chain just goes missing, and we cannot find it at the same level of quality that we would need it.
Yeah, when you were referring more to the unhealthy benefits.
Yeah, like the vision on what type of product do we offer. We want it to be natural, we want it to be healthy, so that can sometimes lead to discussions in the office about what that actually means, but that's super exciting, and it shows how much people care.
Yeah, I'm definitely all for chocolate. So
same. Nothing against chocolate, for the record.
Yeah, but it should be considered a guilty pleasure and not a daily thing. What we often see is that there's like the hero product, and then there's like the B categories and then the C categories. First question, is that the case for Pit&Pit? Was that the case for New Pharma? In both cases, super interesting to hear because we actually work with a lot of brands that manufacture their own products or have it manufactured, where the dynamic is much different because they often come out with one product and then expand the second product, third.
Yeah.
How is it for more of a reseller?
I'd say it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Both companies that you refer to definitely needed their catalog size, and also made their catalog size a definite USP.
Yeah.
You do have your best sellers, of course, right? You have your top 10 that you just follow up and you make sure they're always in stock because they make up a big part of the revenue. Less so at Pit&Pit, because Pit&Pit is very spread out and we really try to serve a lot of niches.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's a bit less evident than in the pharmacy sector, for example. That was much more clear, or there were bigger differences.
Yeah.
But the catalog was definitely if you're a reseller, I mean, catalog size is kind of crucial, right? If you resell 5 products, it's like
hard.
If you want growth, your catalog size is definitely an important factor. If you work D2C, it's your own brand. It's a different strategy, of course.
Yeah. Is there do you feel like you have it in hand, the type of product that will perform better than the other? You just put it on the homepage and it will perform, for example? or it's actually the user. It's actually the trend within the market that determines all these the sales figures.
Yeah. But you can try and influence it a little bit, but you'll feel it. Again, you feel the difference between something getting organic traction versus you really needing to work on something. And you definitely can. If for any type of reason, for example, you're coming close to
stock shortage or
slecht bijdatum, vervaldatum, for example. Like
expiry date.
Thank you. Then you can definitely work at that moment to try and give something more visibility and try and push. But you can feel when there's a push versus a pull from the market.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a new pharma? It was a bit different, or
same. Yeah, same. And as a reseller, you have the added complexity, of course. Because you have your suppliers, they come with market information and expectations.
Yeah.
I don't want to say they're incorrect, but sometimes they're not necessarily correct.
Yeah.
So then you have to really spend time on managing relations with those suppliers and telling them market insights were, I don't want to say wrong, but it's not the way.
Mostly wrong.
And it's not you as the platform that's influencing, but it's actually the market that might not want your product anymore. So that's an added level of complexity.
Yeah, so they'll come to you and say, like, I think this will sell pretty good. Please buy all these types of products. And then you'll tell them, like, what we've seen in our numbers is that's actually this and this, or...
Yeah, for example, as a platform, it's interesting to get the supplier's information, but it's equally interesting to funnel back the market's information back to the supplier.
I want to dive a little deeper in your day-to-day role and like in your job description. Did Pit&Pit have a good job description, and does it actually still match what you're doing today, or is it?
To be very honest, I've never seen a written job description.
Okay. Just at CMO at Pit&Pit.
Someone gave me a call, and then I went and I had a talk, and it's just comparing expectations. I think for this kind of role, it would have been difficult to put down a job description because within that kind of role, I mean, if you come in and, as I said in the beginning, you start combining some insights and spotting stuff, it's part of my job, or I often tend to come with insights that the company didn't necessarily have before. So not to say that I'm writing my own job, but I'm kind of pointing stuff out that they didn't necessarily realize. Yeah. So if we were to work with a job description, I think it would need to be rewritten every month.
Okay,
so
are there like some standards? Do you have a dashboard? Do you come in and set up a dashboard, set up analytics and so on, and you check it every day for 10 minutes just to see if the numbers
my day starts with checking the statistics, numbers. Checking the numbers. Yeah, definitely.
How was past day? How was it this night?
Yeah. How was the past day? How does it compare to previous week? How does it compare to previous year? Yeah. So
cool. And then are you able to actually reason a lot around it, because you can always say like, oh, it was a holiday, so probably that's why it's probably a bit lower, because actually looking at the numbers is, let's say, the easy part, figuring out why they're...
Yeah. Well, ideally, the numbers come within a context of like benchmarks, what are the expectations, what are the goals, and then, okay, if there's a discrepancy between my expectation and my goal and what I see in reality, then you need to start looking into, okay, why? Like, did I do better? Okay, no rush, but it would be cool to know why, so we can replicate. Did we do worse? Crisis, right? The amount of time I've lost in my life looking into reasons why sales weren't as good is extremely high. Like extremely high. I've spent so much time trying to find out why performance was down. I've often not found a reason. I sometimes have found a reason. And it's those few little wins where you're like, I found a bug on the checkout page.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Then you're happy, and it makes all the past 5 times when you were analyzing in the void. Yeah,
and it's mostly a technical error. Payment method doesn't work, or
it depends. Depends. Often it's the weather.
Yeah, it's true that it's often. Oh no, shit. Sorry, I can't say it. Maybe I can. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also at the same time I had a project with a data scientist once exactly around the whole idea of okay, can we better predict sales, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was working for 2 months. No one really knew what he was working on, and then he came back at some point. I found a correlation. The days with the highest sales also have the highest humidity, and everyone's like, yeah, but that's not. I mean,
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
yeah, we cannot do anything with this insight, but yeah, thanks, I suppose.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, was it for Pit&Pit? No, it was for another company.
No, another company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so you check the dashboard, you start your day. Hopefully the dashboard looks quite okay, but let's imagine the dashboard tells you that the traffic from social was really low compared to normal. Would you like dive deeper within social, call your colleague like, have we posted lately or?
Yeah. For me, performance, like, I see like performance and projects, and performance is more of a day-to-day follow-up, but it's crucial. I mean, if your daily performance is off, it's like first priority to try and check what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Of course, if your traffic is down 5%, fine.
Yeah.
Normal fluctuation, you look at your trend line and you kind of try to decide when something becomes an urgency, but you definitely check. Yeah.
Do you have like, let's say an average day in the week?
Mm-hmm.
You have fixed meetings every week to, let's say, have a checkup around all the channels that are running. So you have your Google paid advertising, you have your social channels, you have your SEO maybe. I don't know if there are a lot of team members that handle these channels specifically at Pit&Pit.
The team is relatively small, so it's different than with like a bigger team.
Yeah.
Like at New Pharma, we were more than 20 at some point.
Crazy.
So that does differ a little bit, but we do check weekly. Like we go through the main channels, we check performance. Based on that, we check priorities. And for all of the channels, we kind of have a to-do list. Like we know where we want to go.
Yeah.
So it kind of serves as a weekly check-in of is what we planned still indeed the correct planning.
Maybe on that to-do list or around that to-do list, the data informs you what should be tackled next because it shows you where the urgency mostly lies. But how do the to-dos come to live, so to say? You come in after you've like seen the company and look at all the data points that you could possibly see. Do you create a marketing plan, like a whole book, let's say, of this is what we want to do within 5 years? Or?
A very pretty formatting. No, I always say I come with ugly slides and a bias for action. Like my slides are ugly, right?
Nice. Yeah.
But you do come with an overview of, okay, these are, according to me, the biggest priorities of what need to be done. And then you very, very easy. You list your priorities by how easy are they to implement and what do we think the impact are, and you go for your low-hanging fruit, like the easy ones with the biggest impact. You tackle those first.
Yeah.
And that kind of drives the rest of your actions, right? Apart from that, because that's just your analysis or your audit or whatever you want to call it. Apart from that, of course, you sit together with founders, CEO, whoever's important in the company or has a view for the future.
Yeah.
You have a discussion on, okay, where do we want to go with this company in 6 months' time, years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time?
Yeah.
Where do we want to get? And then you kind of try and figure out, okay, what are the actions that are needed to get there? And you add those to the big pile, and then probably you'll get quite a big list.
What's your time horizon? Because I kind of feel like in e-commerce, you need to look on the long horizon, like ask them for 5 and 10 year plan, but mostly it's around the 6 month plan. Maybe that's like the furthest you'll go, and everything after 6 months is pretty hazy because they're not.
But it's super important. I mean, to give an example, what happens if you start an e-commerce business and your ultimate goal is to sell it in 5 years?
Yeah.
That's something that you need to take into account right now, right? So even if it doesn't influence necessarily your to-dos of today, it is something to be aware of. Yeah. And that's definitely something that I've ran into mostly as a consultant. It's like either you give me that info and I can help you
or I'll pull it
get
out.
there. No, but you do notice sometimes there can be a hidden agenda a little bit.
They need to be frank about it. They need
to be frank,
yeah.
because otherwise they're just shooting in their own foot, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just put it on the table, and then
Have
we
you
know what we're working it with.
It's not something that we often hear it like we plan on exiting one day.
Why not?
Why not? Why not say it? Was that something that you had, for example, for both have been sold now, but New Pharma, was it like the intentions were clear?
To be very honest, I don't know. I don't know if the intentions were as clear for them either. So no, it wasn't that clear. No. And it's also very different. I understand that it's not always easy to be transparent about it either, because if you have a big team, imagine you have built a business of 100 people and you tell everyone every day, but I'm going to sell this in 5 years. It's not ideal either, right? Yeah. So it depends who you're talking to. But yeah, if you come in as a consultant to help grow a business to a certain size, it's important to have part of the context. But yeah, I don't think you should be necessarily talking to everyone about it.
Interesting. So again, to return back to your, like, let's say week or average day, you track the performances, you might have a check-in with the people managing the specific channels. What other themes will you bug or see within a week? Will you talk to the people who are doing the purchasing, for example, at Pit&Pit, and see, are there any products coming up? Any product launches are super crucial.
Yeah, new products for Pit&Pit are very important. I think we launch new products. Well, I think we launch new products every week. So that's definitely a big one. In any case, syncing with purchasing, even about the weekly campaigns that we send out, like, okay, we want to communicate today. We send out a newsletter about coffee, for example. Is coffee in stock? Is the timing okay? That kind of stuff. So definitely a lot of that going on. Yeah. Same with customer support. It's a lot of feedback there. Yeah. Or you dive into socials yourself.
Yeah.
Or
you can see the comments and things. Yeah.
Yeah, you quickly realize, like, what the feedback actually is in the market. Not to say that you should be handling all the tickets all the time yourself, but I think that is an important one.
There's like a tool that I know of, but I suppose most of them are built around the same way. What is it? Zendesk and Gorgeous, and there are like...
Yeah, it's your ticketing system.
Something that I haven't done before, I haven't seen before actually being used pretty well, but they offer it, is like what type of questions come in, group them under a certain type of category, and then actually create pages around these type of categories. Is that something that you've done in the past? Like, it's helping the customer mostly, and then it's also helping customer service, but...
Customer service, and it depends on the type of question, but SEO-wise, like SEO, if your question is, how do I choose between your 70 variants of pepper, for example, I can imagine that would be interesting for Google. Yeah. So yeah, creating an FAQ, I think, was somewhere high up in the priorities for any SEO projects that I've seen pass in the past. Yeah.
Cool. So in the day and in the week, you'll see a lot of different departments within the company also. What else do you do? Just out of interest.
Yeah, well, it depends on the company, to be honest. Yeah. Depends on the phase that you're in as well. So yeah, at Pit&Pit today, I'm actually quite hands-on. Yeah. So I will dive into some SEA campaigns now and then still. Yeah. I fiddle with some landing pages or some emails. So I don't mind.
Are you still up to speed, like, on the latest of everything that's Google?
No, but that's why I like it. Yeah. Just to dust my brain off and be able to feel the new Google Ads interface again. Yeah. Just to force myself. Now? Yeah, because otherwise I think I'd be tempted to never look at it again. So I actually do like it in that sense. And besides that, there's a lot of project work in the sense that you want to launch certain things. For example, loyalty program. Yeah. So that becomes something that you work on throughout the week as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, maybe around the platforms and so on. I'm not as background. I'm not a digital marketeer, but I've heard from the team that there's a lot of talk around everything Google, max performance and these things, and algorithm of Facebook that dictates what type of customers we're targeting these days instead of us manually bidding and dictating what type of audience.
Yeah.
Is that have you seen it shift? Because you were saying like
Extremely. Yeah, extremely. And I've definitely struggled, say it in the past tense. I do still sometimes struggle with the whole shift from back in the day for one very specific keyword linked to an audience. You could decide to the cent what you were willing to pay for it. Sometimes I miss those days, but very often I don't.
Like full control. You had full control.
Full control, but also it wasn't easy at all.
Very hands-on.
Very hands-on, very gepruts almost. So in that sense, I don't mind the AI revolution when it comes to bidding and that kind of stuff. You do lose a bit of, you lose a lot of control, and you do lose some business insight, especially when we're talking about Performance Max. But
it works. It works for you guys also.
It works. Does it work? I don't know. Does it work less?
It's hard to tell.
A little less. Yeah, it's hard to tell because there is no going back. Yeah, you can combine stuff and you can have like a double setup and you can try to. But I think in 2 years' time there will be no more standard shopping campaigns. So I also feel like I shouldn't waste too much energy looking back. I prefer to be excited about the future rather than the past. So.
Right. Let's talk future. What's next, you think?
Ooh.
What will change for e-commerce with the whole AI thing happening? And
I don't think prompts, download 15 prompts for a marketeer. I don't think that will change the future. But I think it will change
a lot.
Drastically. I don't think we're able to envision the change. Like if you look back 15 years ago, we wouldn't have imagined ourselves with cell phones in our hands all the time. So I think 10 years from now, we'll look back and we didn't know.
No.
We just didn't know. I think it's going to affect companies internally. I think it's going to affect the way we talk to customers. I think it's going to affect what we are able to know about our customers. It's going to be big. I think, search is going to change forever.
Yeah.
But I hope so, because frankly, it's outdated.
Yeah, it feels old already.
Definitely
if you've seen the interface of ChatGPT and if
so.
voice is coming. But again, the whole podcast is out of interest, but specifically on this topic, it's my interest. I often hear this thing like marketeers shouting, voice is coming. Have you seen
voice
like talking to Siri?
Not in Dutch. I mean, have you tried talking Dutch to Siri?
Yeah, it's hard.
I mean, if it's coming, it will come in another language first, and we'll have years of advance. Well, maybe it's there already, and we just don't realize because the Dutch one's so sucky. I don't know. At some point, yes, I'm sure. I mean, at some point, it's like live shopping.
Yeah.
At some point,
it will be there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And live shopping. I don't know even, but
a voice, for example, for me feels weird because I don't even actually pick up the phone when I'm at the office. So I talk outside of the office. I won't go out. It's a bit extreme, but I don't go outside of the office if I want to ask something to Google or a search engine or I want to look something up. So
very publicly,
It's very public. It's like people talking to their WhatsApp, doing voice messages on WhatsApp. It's only for certain occasions where it makes sense, where you'll say to everyone around you that you're looking for something to eat this week or something.
Hey Siri, order me some tampons. Oops.
Your grandma is next to you. Is like, what?
No, I can see. I think a use case is there, but I don't think we are there in terms of behavior or whatever yet.
Yeah, but they actually predicted like it's going to be 80% of all search volume. And
they've been predicting it for 10 years. I've seen white papers come out every year about the future of search. I mean, it's like, fine. Let me know when it's actually there. We're going to have the same with AI. We're going to have white papers. Well, we've been having them for years. We're going to have them for years to come.
Yeah. Predicting the future. What do you think about then? A lot of it depends on the search engine, or a lot of the e-commerce depends on the search engine. What do you think of an interface like ChatGPT? And maybe ChatGPT will, if you look for a certain type of food, it will propose to you three options, one option.
Yeah, but I actually wonder, like in 10 years, will you be still looking for a type of food? Will you not just have a menu, and will your food items not be ordered automatically? Like, I think
maybe.
the whole idea of actually needing the extra step to figure that out and going to look for it yourself, I can see that in many other seamless ways. Yeah,
That's possible. Yeah. I have no clue.
No, I have no clue either.
Yeah.
But I think it will be big, and I think we can't even imagine. Yeah.
But within 10 years, because we already had like the opportunity now to look back to more than 10 years, 2009. Facebook was there, Google was there, search was there. Within 10 years, will Facebook still be around? Meta still be around? Still so strong and popular? 2009, maybe it wasn't as popular as it is now.
Not yet. I think it was just before. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. But Google, or knows if you were to make a prediction.
Wacht.
Yeah.
That's definitely a hard one. I know e-commerce will change, and or the internet will change, technology will change, and it depends on how the companies can change with it. Like, will Amazon still be there?
Yeah.
If they can fund their e-commerce activities with other business units,
they'll do it,
fine. But so it depends how they deal with change.
Yeah. Any other things that you'll say? I do feel, for example, it's again I don't know if it's the dichotomy, or how do you say it, like the both extremes of brand and like optimization, and like you have Amazon that for me is like at the optimization side of things, where price actually matters and so on. But I don't think, for example, we'll only buy through marketplaces later, because it's a really bad interface to look for certain things and actually fall in love with something, because I don't think we're always looking for the best price. You see this shift happening. Like Amazon is optimizing with brand pages, and they're optimizing, and Bol is also doing their best to incorporate a few better looking things than they already have. But
I can definitely see some form of consolidation coming, because I mean, Shopify is awesome, and it has democratized the idea of opening an e-commerce store, which is fabulous. But at the other end, at some point, there's also, I don't want to say there's too many, but like the real, the biggest volumes will kind of come together at some point, I feel, as well. Like there's not space enough, or not everyone can have a profitable e-commerce company. That just doesn't make sense. Whether that's on a marketplace or within bigger retailers, because marketplaces are also purely online. And I firmly believe that in 10 years, we won't be talking about e-commerce. We'll be talking about commerce. Retail.
Blend.
It's going to be a blend.
Yeah.
So whether like the big retailers that we now know mostly as offline retailers, will they have a role to play in it, in the new retail landscape? Maybe as well. But I see some form of consolidation coming. There will always be niche players, of course, but
maybe around the offline world and the retailers and so on. How do you see this fit within your marketing strategy, for example, at Pit&Pit?
At Pit&Pit, it's a bit of an open question, because until now we've been a pure player, which has its advantages and disadvantages. You have full control about your sales channel, but you're also limited to your sales channel, right? But it's a really important question, and it's at the core of your e-commerce strategy, because I think you guys mostly do D2C, where you have your own products, your own channel. You can be a pure player e-commerce, like you're fully online. You can be a pure reseller. At Pit&Pit, we're a combination. We have our own brand, for example, but we're still only e-commerce. Once you add like physical stores to the mix, either your own or other stores, it kind of changes the way that e-commerce is part of your business overall. And that's a very important starting point, because once that changes, everything changes with it. Like your e-commerce store can become a driver for physical store visits, or vice versa. And your customer lifetime or your acquisition costs, it changes the whole model.
Yeah.
So
what we now and then, not often, now and then here is like the acquisition cost is just so much cheaper to have a store than paying Facebook all that money, and maybe it's even nicer to have a store than paying to Facebook all the money. So it's part of indeed of an acquisition strategy. Maybe to give an example that we've heard, I think last year on our event is Ace and Date actually works through retail, although they also have a very big store, e-commerce store. Their actual model is just 80% goes through their physical stores, and they have 84 stores, I think, back then. And they did a lot of digital marketing, but it was all pushed towards go to the store instead of go to the website and buy on the website.
And try on 6 sunglasses that you can then send back to us for notice. So exactly. I can imagine that margins on that model are not as high. Yeah.
Do you have any tips and tricks you'd like to share with e-commerce marketeers, things that you've learned, things that they should actually pay attention to and things that they should pay less attention to? The 10,000s of white papers, should they all read them or?
A few. Nothing wrong with reading a few. Just don't spend all of your time reading white papers. I think you learn the most by doing. So play around. Foresee in your marketing budgets also space for playing around. Like, don't close them too tightly, but leave space for experimentation, trying new channels, etc. That's a big one I learned. When halfway through the year you find something new and you realize there's no space. So that's a big one. And a second one would be to talk to your peers.
Yeah.
I didn't early on in my career, and I wish I would have maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
Just because you can really learn a lot from people who are smarter than you. So, just find out people that you would like to learn from or hear from, and just
Any people you look up to, a book that you've read that actually has influenced the way you look at e-com, for example?
Ooh, really good question. My biggest inspiration was my manager at Nufarma.
Yeah, okay.
Bill. Unfortunately, he didn't write any books. In terms of inspiration, there's so much. I have a newsletter, subscribe. You'll find out.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe. I send it out very randomly. But anything I find interesting, I share in there.
Cool.
And just to stay up to date a bit about e-com trends, there's a few podcasts I listen to, like Behind the Numbers. I think it's a really good daily one. It's about retail.
Cool.
It's very US based, but sometimes European insights as well.
It's what we're trying to do here, of course, but it's actually hard to find some good e-com podcasts that are not US based.
Yeah.
Actually hard.
I can imagine.
There's still a big difference, and we have so much more nuances in Europe, and
there's a crazy difference. Europe, let alone Belgium. I mean, the fact that we have 2 languages, have quite a small population.
3 languages.
Yeah.
Well, we actually don't care about the Germans living in that part.
I know a few. I want to personally apologize for
sorry.
having forgotten. Yeah, we try to hire them whenever we launch our website in German. You need a German-speaking Belgian, and at that point, you realize, there are a few.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Thank you very much. It was super interesting, and I hope the listeners will have found it as interesting as I did. So thank you, Ilse.
So too. Thanks for having me.